Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is David the Smiley, and welcome to the Let's Talk podcast, Why Representation Matters Across Media. Today, I'll be talking with Kimberly Holiday-Coleman, and as you know, I'm your host, and we'll be talking about disability representation in all forms of media and how it has impacted the way people see each other. Kimberly Holiday-Coleman and cancer survivor. In 2015, Kimberly was diagnosed with stage 2 colorectal cancer or colon rectal cancer. After her treatment of ostomy surgery, Kimberly embraced a new appreciation for life. Kimberly is also a Fight Colorectal Cancer Ambassador, which she has made many contributions to. Along with that, she's also a part of the Dove hashtag Show Us project and showcases her ostomy with pride. Kimberly shares her experiences and insights on acceptance, family, trauma, cancer, disability, life with ostomy, and finding joy in adversity. In conversation with Kimberly will be David the Smiley, me. I am an actor, cosplayer, Q&A host, panelist, and more. But first, I would like to thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Uh, so, first and foremost, I want to add and let everyone know that originally this podcast episode was going to be in the month of July, which is Disability Pride Month. However, if you are Houstonian or if you are aware of the Hurricane Beryl that happened here in Houston in July, it set a lot of things back for Houstonians. So we are just finally getting this together. But again, without further ado, we're going to start our podcast. So, Kimberly, my
Good
first question
morning.
for you is, how are you today?
Great question. Thank you for that. I'm doing well. I am so excited to be here. It's just always amazing and awesome when you get a chance to share with different communities about our journeys. So I am really excited to do that.
I'm
Yes, thank
glad.
you for asking. Hmm.
I always want to ask because, like, we go through a lot. And like I just mentioned, Hurricane Beryl set a lot of things back for us Houstonians. But again, everyone goes through a lot. So to me, it's always important to ask how you're doing. And just, if you,
Yeah. Yes, you're right. I mean, like when you bring up Hurricane Beryl and all of that, like July, the month we were, scheduled to do this, my father passed. It was just so many things, Hurricane Beryl, all of the things. So, it's a lot. And for those of us in the disability community, if you're familiar with the spoon theory, you get up every day and you have a certain amount of energy as a disabled person, anybody really, and especially more in the disability community. And so we work to preserve those spoons. And, like this week I was moving and hurt my arm. And so, it's all of those things. And so I appreciate that, again, appreciate the question, because when we're dealing with certain spoons, a certain limited amount of spoons, it does help. But just knowing that this message will go forward, that it will help others, gives me extra spoons. Yeah.
for that, I'm glad I can help with that today. Now, a little background about you. So, where did you grow up?
I am a native Houstonian. So I lived half my life in Texas, half my life in California. So I'm a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll. We left California when I was 17. And, I've had a chance to come back a few times to Houston and just really excited to be here, taking part in Houston life. How about you?
Originally, I'm from Dallas. Uh, well, look, I that's not the normal reaction I get. Normally, when I tell Houstonians I'm from Dallas, they're like, "Oh, you're from Dallas," and I don't know what the beef. I really, really don't. I've never, all Houstonians think I'm cool, good people. We don't have any issues. But apparently, me being from Dallas is the issue. And I'm like, I've known you for X, Y, and Z amount of time. It could be 5 minutes, 5 years. And you're just now knowing that I'm from Dallas. And you have this reaction because they feel like it's betrayal. And I'm like, yeah, how did I betray you?
That part I don't get. And maybe because I lived half my life in California. So, you do, like in California, you have the NorCal and SoCal kind of thing. Um, but in Texas, I just count it all Texas. So it doesn't, hey, Dallas is just an extra place to go visit, man. It's all good.
Now it is. Now it is. For me anyway. But also I just vacation in California. Like I just got back this week actually. It is such a beautiful state, beautiful state. The areas I went to were like really nice and the temperature and weather is so much different
Hmm.
from here, even though like both are technically like coastal cities. Like, and I was in Los Angeles, so
Hmm.
that breeze, that temperature, it was completely different. I will say it was a
Yeah.
different vibe. It was a different type of like setting for me, just all around.
It really is. Like you said, they're coastal cities, but you have the Gulf of Mexico coast, which is hot, and then you have Pacific, the Pacific Ocean, which is cool. So it just gives a different energy, a different vibe. Yeah, so yeah, man, I'm excited. What are we getting into today, David? What are we talking about? I see all kinds of hearts going up. I think people are ready.
I know. I see it. I hope they are. So we're gonna get into it right now. So, what can you share with our audience about colorectal cancer?
Okay. Okay, so I'll just briefly get into my journey and then we'll talk a little bit. I was diagnosed, like you said, in 2015, stage two colorectal cancer. Basically, I had been having symptoms since January of 2015 and was diagnosed in July of 2015. During that time, I was having all kinds of different symptoms, like not voiding completely when I had a bowel movement. The stool was a different size, different shape than it normally was, bloating, dizziness, not feeling myself, just feeling off, loss of appetite, weight loss, all of those things. Um, and so I knew something was off. And I was able to go and get like the initial fecal occult test. And that came back for me that it was negative. It did not show any signs for me. However, I still, months after having that, was having more, the symptoms were getting worse, including rectal bleeding, bleeding into the toilet. It was a lot and it was jarring. So I stayed, being my own advocate and, went back in and was able to get a colonoscopy. And when I woke up, July 24th, 2015, from this colonoscopy, the doctor came in and told me that he found a fist-sized tumor in my sigmoid colon. And he did not even know how it was sitting there. They barely were able to do the colonoscopy. They had to do with a baby scope, an infant scope. That's how much my tumor was blocking. So, just going through that journey, and that took me on the course of chemo, oral chemo, port chemo, and radiation. And I ended up having a life saving surgery, which gave me an ostomy that was supposed to be temporary. And since then, I've elected to keep my ostomy. So it's been 9 years. In November, it will be 9 years with my ostomy. So all of those things stemmed from my colorectal cancer journey. So that brings me to why I advocate, and what I'm telling people about is, like, most people don't know that colorectal cancer is quickly overtaking it's becoming the number one cancer, and by 2030, I believe, the percentages of people who will be diagnosed is staggering, and the deaths will be staggering. So that it is now that we in 2024 with Fight CRC and different orgs are pushing this initiative to get screened. Screening starts at 45 now. Before it was older, but it's been pushed back to 45 because of legislative um, advocacy through Fight CRC and many other orgs. So that's something I also want to share. Like if you're having any of those symptoms I talked about, you can get a screening at 45. And if you have a family member that has had colorectal cancer, you can actually get that screening 10 years earlier than the age they were diagnosed. So say for me, and so my family members, my children, my siblings would have to be diagnosed, but they would have to go in and go to colonoscopy at 37. So that's how you do that. So that's what I want to, just the initial thing I'd like to share.
Okay, so just to recap for those that are joining and everything, and you also went in and out for like a second.
Mm,
Again, you're diagnosed in July of 2015,
yes.
and then that's in November 2015 you were able to get the ostomy. And when was the surgery though?
That was in November. So, I was diagnosed in July and I started my chemotherapy, oral chemotherapy, and I did like 33 radiation treatments to my pelvis and because they were trying to shrink the tumor. And so during the course of those months, they had over radiated my colon to the consistency of tissue paper, essentially, and didn't realize it. And so as I was resting up for my surgery to take the fist-sized tumor out, I had a bowel obstruction and perforation, which almost took my life. So I ended up having uh, life, life-saving surgery, and they gave me the ostomy. Before I was supposed to get a temporary 6-week ostomy, but after the surgery, because it was life-saving, they asked me to keep it for 2 years, and I chose to keep it forever.
Right. And then, like you were saying, like for you were 47 when you got your diagnosis.
Mhm.
Like current legislation now, like if someone in your family did get a diagnosis, you can get that same test done like 10 years before you're supposed to get it done. And my thing is that a lot of people, if you look at it, like especially for some of us, the younger generation in your 20s and 30s, you don't think about long-term health. Sometimes you think about what's in the moment, and you're like, okay, I just take my vitamins and I work out, I eat right, and that's it.
Yeah.
But some people don't know how there are not necessarily generational, but things that can be passed down. And so, like, and you wouldn't even know it. Like for me, I have slight stigmatism. It's not bad to the point where I need glasses to see at
Mhm.
night.
Mhm.
I done just so I can get contact lenses for my cosplay stuff. And I like, oh, you have like slight stigmatism. And I'm like, wait, isn't that when like the lights look all blurry and everything? They're like, yeah, like it has a little halo on it. I'm like, oh, I'm like, it's not bad. He's like, yeah, that's what that is. I'm like, oh, I thought that was normal. But you don't know until you actually go in. And so that's why physicals, yearly physicals are important. Or if you feel like you're not feeling well, go see a doctor just in case. Like we have the whole like everyone should have health insurance. I know like it's tough, but even then, like you do have to go every once in a while and get checked out for more than just your standard stuff.
Thank you for bringing up the younger generation, because that brings up a really good point that colorectal cancer was thought to be an older person's disease, just period. So a lot of people, a lot of doctors and things, they don't necessarily look for it in younger people. However, what I've learned through being a Fight CRC ambassador and mentor is that the cases of being diagnosed with colorectal cancer are getting younger and younger. There are teenagers diagnosed with colorectal cancer. You know, that blew my mind. And they're coming out with stage 4 teenagers.
Really?
So, yeah. And so I'm with you. Like, I'm 56 now. But when I was in my 20s, I did go to the doctor a lot. And I think maybe that was that generation.
No.
And yeah. And so now what I am telling people is like, it doesn't matter your age, stay cognizant of what is happening with your body because only you know what's happening with your body. You know your body best. And so, just going in and just getting those things checked. And if they tell you no, or if they tell you the things that they told me, like when I went in, my OBGYN, I would say, hey, I had some bleeding, I had this. And they're like, oh, you probably have hemorrhoids because you had kids. And I could have just left it at that. And what would that diagnosis have been if I didn't push to get that colonoscopy 3 months later? I mean, it was literally from January to July. That could, and if I just said, okay, I, who knows? So to, as a younger person, as a younger generation, to remember that these things can be environmental, they can be your experiencing it. So as a young person, remember, not only are you just working out, but you're also looking at your body functions and you're looking at those things. You're looking at your urine, the color, you're looking at the consistency of your stool. You're looking at those things. You should consult a poop chart. Just make sure everything's good. Just make sure everything's good. If it's off, you can go in. I'm not saying to panic, just to be aware and start that young. Be aware of your body younger.
Mm, I fully agree. So I'm gonna segue into our next question, but I still want to say you don't look a day over like 35, just so you know. Just so you know,
Appreciate you.
welcome. Like I did the math, and I'm like, it's no way. Like no, I'm
Well,
serious.
man, thank you. And I'm okay with aging. I'm good with my gray hair. I'm good with wrinkles. I am good with dimples and all the beautiful imperfections or characteristics of my body because when you go through what I went through and you live, it creates it has the possibility of creating a different experience with your body. And so for me, I look at it as I've had 9 extra years of life, you know? And so to be able to see my gray hair come in, it means something different to me. To be able to see fine lines coming, it means something. I cherish it because it means I'm still here. I'm still here. And so thank you for the glowing compliment. I appreciate that. And I would be good if I looked 56 too. So,
So now on to my next question. Now, and we've kind of talked about this, which is basically this question is, how has life been for you after your diagnosis? And again, we kind of talked about this like earlier, but if you want to get more specific, you can.
mm. um, when you ask that, what do you mean life in general, like activities, or do you mean like what recovery is like, where my body is, or is this like a combo?
So like what you were saying earlier about how, again, you went from July to
Mhm.
November, and in that November is when you had the surgery and the life change, the life saving surgery. And then after that life saving surgery, you're only supposed to have the ostomy bag for 2 years. So when you had to start living with an ostomy bag, like what was that like per se?
Ooh. Um, it's daunting at first. It's scary. You don't know. You just hear negative things. You just hear negativity around it. And so before I even, because again, I was supposed to have this surgery in November, and I had, like I said, and so I started looking at pictures. I went on social media. I started looking at people, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm so grateful for social media and things like that because I was able to see people living their lives. They had on swimsuits. They were doing all these things. They were, and I was just like, wow, okay, I can do this. And this is when I thought I had the 6 week. And then when they asked me to keep it for 2 years, that was daunting because I didn't know I had leaks. I didn't know how to navigate this life-saving device. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go out. It's going to make noises. Maybe it'll smell. I might have a leak and I'm going to be embarrassed. And so I literally thought I would be in my back room for the 2 years until I had the surgery reversed. I thought that. And then I had to keep going to the doctor because after that surgery, I had 6 more months of chemo to do. And so that was really grueling alongside learning this, life-saving device and going through all of that. So life with an ostomy has been ever evolving. One of the things I like to tell people is to go to social media if you know that you could possibly have an ostomy, or even if you have one, go to social media, just check out. There's so many amazing advocates on there, just doing all kinds of wonderful things. And it shows you can still have a life. I've been able to go back to work. I've been able to travel abroad, like solo to Australia. I've been to all kinds of places in the world and in the country post having this ostomy. And I've been able to ice skate and roller skate and become a published author and continue modeling and walk on runways and perform burlesque and all these wonderful things that I never thought I would be able to do with an ostomy. So a lot of people, when they hear that word, you're going to have an ostomy, it's just so negative. So what I do, part of my advocacy, is to break down those negative stigmas by showing pictures, showing that you can live your life. You just have to do it. You have to plan a lot, but it's possible. And you have, consult your doctors, make sure you're doing what is best for your body because each ostomy experience is different. There's all kinds of ostomies, and it's not just one kind. So, you have to work with your WOCN, wound ostomy um, continence nurse. So those types of things, I don't hope I didn't overwhelm with all of the information, but I get really excited and want to share those types of things. So let me know if you have something else.
No, like I think that is like what's important. Actually, someone left a comment. My nephew was one to let people know that it was saving his life, not life ending. Thank you for all you do for ostomatas. And I hope our
Ostomates. Ostomatas. Oh, I think she meant ostomates. Yes, that's Tam Miss Art Creations. Hi, Tam. Yes, exactly. It's amazing that it is a life-saving device. I remember the first time I showed it in public, and I think it was on a beach in Jamaica. And so I had gone to Jamaica. I had not worn a swimsuit for a year and a half post my uh, ostomy surgery. I didn't think I could go swimming. I didn't think I could wear a swimsuit. And I thought it was show and I would just all of the things. That's what I mean about ostomy life. You just initially think all of these really heavy things. And so when I went to Jamaica, I got a couple of swimsuits. I had a bikini, I had a one piece, and I ended up one day deciding I was going to wear my bikini with my ostomy out. And that was one of the scariest and most incredible things I've ever done. And, I'm just sitting there on the beach and I'm tugging my shirt up and down, having that moment of whether I show this or not. And finally, I just thought to myself, no one knows what I've been through. They don't know the journey that I've taken to be on this beach in Jamaica. I almost died. I wasn't supposed to be here. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be ashamed. I'm going to be me. And taking that shirt off and just standing in the moment, owning my journey, owning where I was, owning that process was liberating. And ever since then, I have been just, been able to liberate myself and hopefully others.
I'm glad. And yes, you are. Like, I know someone's going to listen to this, someone's going to see this, and they're just going to think that, like, wow, like someone is out here like me, and they are able to continue to live and thrive. And that's kind of like the biggest thing, is that it's a confidence booster for some. For others, they don't know where to go. And so again, part of this platform here is to let people know, like, hey, there are people in varying like situations or things that they go through or lives that they lead. And you literally have a way to see it. And you just don't know. Sometimes you don't know where to go. Sometimes it's not easily accessible. Not everyone, and even to this day, not everyone has a laptop or a smartphone at home. Even some people don't know, you can go to your local library and get a computer pass to like look stuff up, like, or even ask like a
Mhm.
librarian. People don't know that. You
Mhm.
think, oh, or if I'm feeling some type of way, I have to go straight to the doctor, but the doctors cost money. Like,
Yeah.
there's still ways to research without having to spend $1,000 for like tests. And
Exactly.
I'm exaggerating with 1,000 because it could be less, it could be more. You never know. But this is America, so that watch. I'm gonna move on to the next question because the next question is, when was the first time you saw disabled representation in media? And when I say disabled representation, I mean visible and non-visible like representations. Like, think about certain movies, television series that you've watched, or even a book that you've read where they explicitly mentioned a disabled character.
Oh my goodness, do I have something for you? I grew up, I was a Little House on the Prairie fan. I, you know, Half Pint was my girl. Michael Landon was my dad, and I have been rewatching that recently, and I didn't realize that that show actually showed different disabilities. It was so progressive. And I came to find out, my husband did some research, and he was actually hiring people with disability during that time, during the 70s and 80s, which is revolutionary. They had a storyline with Mary was blind and she went to a blind school, fell in love, and I was watching it recently, just a couple days ago, and it was so beautiful because the character even says, most people think that because we're blind, we're useless. And that just hit me that this has been going on for so long. And there's a reason that I felt like I needed to live in a back room. And so when I saw this show and they had this moment where those two characters kissed each other and embraced each other in just the most sensual, beautiful way. And I was like, they were showing that in the 70s and the 80s. It, it Little House on the Prairie. Just go back and watch it. It's wild. So I've seen that. I didn't realize that that was in my psyche from a child, that I had seen that type of representation, but you don't see it very often. To now being able to see different, myself being able to walk in Melbourne Fashion Week in Australia with my ostomy. And I was in an access to fashion show, and it was all disabled. Everybody had some different form of disability, something that was, different and beautiful and unique. And we all walked that show. And I tell you, I've walked many runways throughout the years, and that was one of my most favorite shows. If you had seen the joy of people knowing that they were being represented in their wheelchair, their cane, their walker, all kind, ostomies, all varying forms. It was one of the most beautiful shows to date. And that was just a few years ago. Think about that.
So just to recap, Little House on the Prairie. See, I never watched it. I can't lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not watch it, but I knew about it. I did know about Little House on the Prairie. It just never piqued my interest. But now that you tell me this, it's interesting. And it's true. Like, you don't see the representation until you actually think about it. Um, and that I definitely like have never ever thought about that before. But interesting that Little House on the Prairie had that, and that the director hired folks with disabilities,
Yeah.
because you don't and I hate to be that guy, but there are certain shows that I've watched like over the last 15 years, and especially if they're like with teenagers, if they have like a high school setting or something like that, you can see like every once in a while they will have someone with a disability, but it's usually the same actor. Um, I know there was a guy, and I don't know the actor's name, but I know he has Down syndrome,
Mm.
and I've seen a lot of different things, and I never thought about it, but I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, Down syndrome, it's a series, like, okay,
Yeah.
but put that in, I'm like, I didn't think about that. Like,
Yeah.
that is one thing right there, is for someone to hire them, but to actually have them, different people too, not just the same person with the same disability, but with different disabilities.
Yes. Not quota filling, but
Mhm.
actually purposely filling these positions, these roles. And so that was Michael Landon. And so he was purposely choosing people, and so when I saw that episode, I felt so seen. Because, with an ostomy, it's, it can't, some people consider it a disability. The ADA does. And, and so, just, I don't know, it was just such a beautiful moment. And I was like, wow, just to see that one moment. And I would love to see more of that, and not just be a side character who does not have affection, love, any of those things. You're just a side buddy. No, I love that they were an essential part of this story, and then you actually see their story in um, play out. And they just show these they even run this school for the blind, and you're seeing them teaching children, and they have these conversations like, you are a person full of purpose and all kinds of wonderful things. Like, this is just the beginning. We're opening this door for you. And so that's how I feel, like, to circumvent all the way back to today. Social media feels like it has, there's so many disabled creators, content creators, that it feels like now we're taking that messaging and we're reframing it in an incredible way. And so people are taking their disabilities and they're being empowered instead of disempowered. Disability comes with challenges enough, but we don't need to be disempowered in how we think about ourselves, our journey, whether we work a job or whatever it is. I'm just here for this new revolution of people coming out and saying, this is me as I am. Take it, leave it, appreciate it. it it's beautiful, man. So my message is that of love, of grace. So I also like to tell people, because you brought up a point earlier when you said some ostomates, it's wonderful, and some it's not. Because a lot of times, I think when we get these life-saving devices, they don't tell us it's okay to grieve what we've lost. I lost a part of my body. I don't go to the restroom the same anymore. That's
Mhm.
so my clothes don't fit the same anymore. I have to be conscious about when I travel, even when I leave out of the house, when I go downstairs, all kinds of things. Do I have emergency supplies in my car? Do I have, and it's like, so to be able to be conscious about disability and how we live our lives with this is powerful, and it can be empowering. So grieving is a huge part of that process, because when you grieve what you've lost, what you've gone through, this journey, then you're able to then start picking up the pieces of your life, and putting together the most incredible picture of yourself, of your new self.
And I think it's important that we do time out to grieve, even for those, if you can, like find a therapist to help you as well. But we live in this like time where everything has to be like go, 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 go. You don't get time to like take a break and rest.
Mm-hmm.
And for non-disability, like you have to take the time out to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. And, you know, with all of this, I have a new diagnosis and it's life-threatening as well. It's different. And so with that, I have learned to start taking more time for myself and doing
Hmm.
meditation and journaling and therapy. I've done art therapy for cancer patients, traditional therapy for cancer patients, family therapy with my family because they needed to let out what they were witnessing me going through and their feelings around it. So it's like those types of things, that type of support groups, UOAA, United Ostomy Associations of America, Fight CRC, Fight Colorectal Cancer. Even my product manufacturer, I wear Hollister product, and they have a secure start program. So it's like all of these, and what that does is it helps you to have make sure your ostomy is fitted and all those things, and that you're comfortable. You can live your life. You can be supported. And so, that's how we empower ourselves. Like Tam wrote in the comments, she had to make sure her nephew had a change of clothes, extra supplies, etc. Every time we left the house. Same. And so people don't realize you can just most people can just get up and just walk out of their house like, woohoo, bye bye, I'm going off. I'll grab my purse or whatever. But anytime I leave, I have to be thoughtful. And people don't realize that about disability. It's like we have to pre-plan and be thoughtful about where we're going. Does it have disability access? Does it have how much disability parking? How much disability seating or hotels or flights or any of those things? So pre-planning helps me and others, I think, to be prepared and to also be prepared for any challenges that might come up so you can navigate around them.
Okay. And I know you mentioned UO what's
UOAA.
OA?
Mhm.
So, and I know you mentioned the next question. What I wanted to ask you was, what can you tell our audience about your involvement with Fight Colorectal Cancer or Fight CRC for short?
the, the name of the org. And so my involvement with them began like probably if I found them maybe like 6, 7 months after I had my ostomy, because I started like I was looking more at social media, trying to find different supports. And so I saw them and I saw they have a conference like every couple of years. And I've been to like two of the conferences and been a speaker. And you get to meet all of these ostomists flying in from all over, different parts of the world even. And you are feeling at home and all of these things. And so I started just looking at their content, just reading what they were talking about. They cover the gamut when it comes to ostomies because again, there's so many ostomies. There's ileostomies, urostomy, double ostomies. Some people have two ostomies. Yeah, so one for urine, one for stool. So there's all kinds of ostomies, right? I think at least probably 5 or 6 if I'm pulling that up correctly. And so when I went to this site, they have things for each of the ostomies. They have resources, there are support groups you can go and meet in different cities. I found that to be quite refreshing. And so I just really leaned in and just started reposting a lot of their things. And then they ended up seeing me. And, like I said, they invited me to be a speaker a few times. And this year I actually am their ostomy awareness champion for Ostomy Awareness Day, which is October 5th. So I'll be doing live events and, just really raising awareness this month of September, going into that first week in October to let people know about UOAA, about FICRC, about Hollister, Secure Start Services, whatever. I am letting you know. So I'm so excited. This really is a 360 moment for me, from being that patient in the hospital, waking up from that life-saving surgery, seeing my husband at the foot of my bed, my male wound ostomy nurse, and they're changing my appliance and poop is flowing all out. And I was so embarrassed and ashamed. And to have them both look at me and my husband, they're both like, you're good. This is just poop. We all do it. I'm just happy. My husband's like, I'm just happy you're alive and here. I don't care. And he was learning how to take care of this appliance with me. And so this is like, when they said that, it shifted my perspective and let me know that it's just poop. I just happen to poop differently. That's it.
Right.
And so those types of things were bolstered. The education that UOAA provides, the conferences bolstered my confidence. Orgs like Fight CRC, learning how to legislate, learning how to be an advocate. I have spoken at the Kentucky State Capitol to the governor of Kentucky and told my story. I've been on the news, all those things to share, along with so many other ostomates.
Wow. Well, I look, congratulations on all of your feats because that's that's a big change. It's a big life-changing thing. And I don't, it's something not everyone has a passion to do. Not everyone has like that drive going. It's like once something gets you down, like literally down the entire time. But other people
Yeah.
know that it's like, okay, down, but I am not out. And that's like, yeah, yeah. Really like an important thing to know is like just mean you're out. Like not entirely.
That's right.
Um, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, so which is my next question, is at what point in your life did you recognize Black representation in media? So like comics, manga, television, movies, any type of media for that matter. And I know we've been talking about disability representation in types of media, but have you noticed Black representation in media, or have you ever Black representation where a person is in a type of media? Because I don't, I see some really very limited in certain series, but it's usually someone might be autistic or it's kind of like ability. Others where they might have a limb cut off or they might have a pacemaker. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't, but it is very minute. It's not all the time.
Ooh, that's a great question and a great point. Again, I grew up in the 70s, so uh, black and white TV type of thing. And then I never saw us really. And if I saw us, it was in subservient roles, nothing that was fully us, truly us. And so I was able to also then see this ushering in of all kinds of young people represented in the media through like shows like Good Times, The Jeffersons, all of those things. Soul Train was just life affirming at that time. You could see brown people from, it was just really cool. And so, those types of things became, and then as well as the blaxploitation films. But to bring it all the way back to today, I am, I man, you really had me racking my mind to think of a character that is a person of color, that is brown, that is black, who has a disability like mine or different disabilities represented. I really don't see it very often. I mean, even when I'm doing things, there might be one of us, maybe two, and I think orgs are becoming better. They're becoming more conscious that they need to have faces that represent all of us. you
Right.
know Otherwise, how do you fit in to these things? How do you identify those types of things? And so now Man, that's such a great. I really can't think of a character. Yeah, that's kind of wild. I'm sure that I know that there is. I just can't think of it. And maybe that lends itself to your point that there's so few that even the one or two or three, four, five, I can't even pull it up. But I can pull
So,
up Little House on the Prairie, right?
okay, so I have a character for you. And as you know, I cosplay Static Shock.
Mm.
So series, there is actually a character with a disability. It wasn't known until a little later on in the series that he was dyslexic and that he actually had a hard time reading. The character's name is Rubber Band Man. And he's a black male. And so the thing is that he had to defuse a bomb, but he had to read the instructions. And so he had to sit there and go through all of his teachings that, like the things he were taught in order to how to read and understand what words were. He was able to do that.
Mm.
And bomb, but that's an animated character. And I can say even how certain characters may be autistic, but the way that it's worded, especially in the Black community, we don't word it the same. Sometimes we'll say touched. And you being born in the 70s, like raised in the 70s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is code for a lot of different things. Um, and go ahead, because you know. All right. Back to seriousness. But you know what I'm talking about. Like you know exactly what I mean when you hear the word touched. One of my favorite movies is called Idlewild, and it's with
Yeah.
Big Bo
Oh, yeah.
Thousand. There is a side character there, and he was a level of autistic. Like some things didn't compute in his brain the way that they were supposed to, or he's like, oh, you gave me instructions to do this, but I didn't think to do this because the instruction was this, and so I stayed doing this. Um, there's a character in that movie, and I forgot his name, but he is a very big guy, like probably 6 feet, 200 pounds. And so that's also another thing is that even though for some of those characters, their brain might not fully develop, but their body is still developing. So you'll see this person, but they still have the mind of a 7-year old. And
Mm.
know initially that we might know. Those are just a few examples of things that I've seen. And Rubber Band Man was like one of those characters that was like, I see him. And this was one of a favorite show of mine. When it comes to some of the like other like disabled representation, you don't see a lot of us. Like you may see one like Big Mama from Soul Food, where she had to get her, was it arm or leg? I
Her leg. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so she had to get her leg amputated. And that was like another thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she didn't stay in the movie much longer after that. But that's a prime example. But also, as we talked about health, that's a health reason right there. So you see these type of things, but you don't see these type of things. But the media did have it to where you had to be at a lot of an older age. Like you were
Mm-hmm.
50s, 60s when all of these health problems developed. But I know folks who are in their 20s right now, and I'm 32. I don't know how y'all have. Oh, wait, I thought you knew this. I thought you knew. Yeah, so
I thought you were in your 20s.
look, I get that a lot. I also people told me, like just at first glance, I still can pull off like 17, 18 at first glance until I start talking and I start talking about experiences. articulate things. And I'm like, oh, I thought y'all knew that this was like a no, this isn't no, I'm not a baby. Like I have experience. But I know folks that are in their like early mid 20s right now, they have knee problems. Like they can't
Mm.
go to the club, drop it like it's hot anymore. Like they can't come up and then come back. They can't do that. Like yes, and we gonna say it like that. They can't do it. And I'm like, how do y'all need y'all work? Half of y'all were not in sports, like to begin with. And I'm roasting people I know, and I shouldn't be doing that. But like half of y'all weren't in sports. I know that y'all should be able to do something. You should be able to bend over and touch your toes at least. Your, your elbows don't have to touch your knees or anything like that, but you should be able to do some of these like standard things. I know 50, 60-year-olds that are still able to stay fit and do more. I also was a personal trainer back then as well when I was in college in my 20s. So I was working with people in my age group. I was like, dang, like you got determination, even if you might have to alter certain exercises. But for you to be in your 50s, you can still keep up and do what you need to do and stay active. This person over here in their 20s can't even run a mile. And I'm like, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that there's a difference. There's a big difference between the two. And for some people who are disabled, they are disabled, yes, but that does not mean that they can't do what they need to do. That doesn't mean that they can't be active.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are still active and disabled. There's a whole league of people in wheelchairs who play basketball. The Paralympics is literally also going on too. Like that's a
Have you seen it? Have you? They are slaying out there. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that I love all the points you made because they're all spot on. And being conscious of the fact that each disability is different, that each person's experience is different. So every disabled person is not going to be able to do the Paralympics. However, you find what works for you. That could be rolling your wheelchair to the window and looking outside. That could be in your bed because there's been times I have been bedridden for a long time. And so like putting your fingers in soil of a plant, tending to a plant that's bedside, adjusting your life to where you are. So while every disabled person, like I'm not going to go out and compete in the Paralympics, like I'm not ready, nor will I be. However, I adjust it to what I can do, and when I look at the Paralympics, I go, wow, there's so many possibilities of things that we can do. And you see that I love what the Paralympics represents because they really do highlight. It's a team and it's community. And so being a part of this community, that's what's empowering is when we do work as a team, when we do uplift each other as a team, as a community to say, hey, wherever you're at is okay. It's okay. You don't have to go outside. You don't have to run miles. You don't have to do all the things I did. You do what works for you, but do things that help your spirit to feel good about where you are. Reframe that experience of the disability. Yeah, I have the disability. And how I reframed it was, man, I get this extra time. I've been able to see my children grow. I have seen 9 more of their birthdays. My husband, 9 more anniversaries. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. My
aw,
yes, my it's just seeing my kids grow up. It means something different. So I look at it, that allowed me to reframe my existence with a disability. disability. And so I see it as something that I have to just learn how to, or I choose to learn how to work with. And sometimes I'm just in bed and I'm okay with that. And sometimes I'm traveling all over the world and I'm great with that too. So letting people know that do what's best for you, but get support. Don't just sit in the corner by yourself. You're not alone. That's also a big message that I like to share is we're not alone. We are a community. We are of people, not just disabled people, but people in this world. The sooner that we realize that it takes a community to live this life, whether you're disabled, able-bodied, whatever it is, it takes community. And so that's a big part of this message is join these communities, check out these people on social media, check out UOAA, check out all of these orgs, get your resources, go to your patient navigator, say, hey, I'm struggling mentally, get that mental therapy, get your therapy, your physical therapy, your occupational therapy, your all of those things come together. So that is like my a big message. You're not alone. There are communities. You just have to find what works for you so that you don't feel alone and you can live your best life, whatever that is.
And I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of people think they're alone. And no, you're not alone. There's
Yeah.
always you, and there's always somewhere you can go. So please don't ever feel alone. And do know that there's someone out there who would be devastated if you were not around.
That point right there.
So we're going to get off the seriousness, and then I'm going to ask you just like a random question. So now you say that you're originally from California. Now, what is life like in Houston for you?
I'm originally from Houston.
Oh, wait.
So
Okay, so you're
yeah, I
oh,
lived here until I was 17 and then I moved to California. Yeah.
apologies. I got that confused.
It's okay.
My brain is right now. I do actually miss it. It was very nice over there. Okay, so let me rephrase that. Living life in Houston and then going to California and then coming back. How's that?
That's such a loaded question. I have a trauma background,
Mhm.
and so growing up, I experienced a lot of childhood trauma um, at the hands of my father and mother. And so coming back to Houston, I've come back. I think this is my third time, but the first two times were pretty painful because it was triggered and living through that trauma. So I also live with complex PTSD, and so each time, however, I've come back, I've been able to gain a bit more peace, to let things go, to heal through them. So being back this time, I came back in 2022, and it's different because not only is the city different, I'm different. I appreciate the city more. I appreciate where I'm from, and I don't carry the old pain. I do still have triggers. I do still have all of those things. However, I see Houston now as this beautiful, diverse place full of so many incredible cultures and people. And I know we're the food capital. I know we are, of the United States. And so it's just like, I love Houston. And I graduated from U of H, go Cougs, in 2013. So, it's like I am a proud Houstonian. I would not have said that because of the trauma that I went through. And so now I am. I'm working on healing, man. And it's nice. It's beautiful to be back home. It's beautiful. And I appreciate it. I appreciate what Houston has to offer. That's how I met you, was at the Disability Comic Con. So, you know, go
That is true.
Cougs.
And what I will say is is that, again, me not being from Houston, like I went to school out here, not at U of H, but I did like start building like connections with people out here in Houston. And by the time like graduation came, I had two options. One, go back to Dallas and basically start over with like nothing brand new, but with just education, or continue to be out here where you've made so many different connections with people and not necessarily have roots down, but you already have a network. And I want
Mhm.
your personal experiences like that. Not everyone wants to share that. So I do appreciate you sharing that.
Totally. Totally. It all lends itself to who I am today. And that's part of the advocacy. And I think that's part of what helped me to recover was going through all of that. And so I've been doing therapy. I first got into therapy when I was 24, when I first start told what had happened to me. And so it's been this 31 plus year journey of healing. And then, so when I was diagnosed with the colorectal cancer, I already had these tools in my toolbox. And that's what helped me to kind of stay the course, you know? And so now it's just continuing to grow, continuing to, you know, let out the things that do not serve me and to process the emotions and to learn how to live this new life to the best of my ability. Now I'm more focused on the quality of life and not the quantity. Quantity means nothing if you don't have quality of life. So with me finding that quality, pardon, that's my dog, Falcor.
Alcor, um, never ending story.
Yes, he looks just like that. Great. That's great. Yeah, my husband named him because my husband's 10 years younger than I am. And so he likes Never Ending Story and I had never seen it. And so when I got that pup, he's an ESA, an emotional support animal. I got him a year after I had my cancer diagnosis, and so I got him, and when we saw him, he's like, he looks like Falcor from Never Ending Story, and I'm like, who is that? So I looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, he does. So yeah, he's a sweetie. Hmm.
Well, I'm sorry to say, but I have a cat. I'm a cat owner, and, and it's only because, like, don't get me wrong, I grew up with dogs. Like, I love dogs. I grew up with Saint Bernards. You know how big they are, and we had two. Yes, and the dogs.
Thanks.
'Cause I was the one that fed them, got their water. I let them outside and everything, so they knew who to come to if they wanted something. And those dogs, like, they snore like a freaking engine. Like, big dogs, love them to death, but they do too much sometimes. And they're pretty smart. Like, dogs are pretty smart. I don't care what people say. Cats and dogs are very smart.
They they are. We have a cat and a dog. So yeah, they I'm the feeder, you know, in addition to other people in the family, but they know I'm the morning feeder. So they both come to me in the morning, they're like, "Meow," and they're like, okay. So yeah, I totally get it. And having, you know, part our animals as part of our lives is a big deal too. Hmm.
So now I know I've asked you like a few different questions here, but this one it might seem like you're coming back to one of the questions I asked you earlier, but not necessarily. But my next question for you is, have you ever felt represented in any form of media?
What do you mean me?
Like as a woman of color,
Mm.
as someone that deals with PTSD, as someone that has your type of history, have you ever felt represented in not just, well, actually, I will say, even if it's different things, like all around.
Mhm.
One
Mhm.
character this disability, one character might have this trait of yours, one character.
Mm.
Have you ever seen that before?
Yes, yes, I have. I mean, clearly there's all kinds of various characters and things like that. The first time there's a couple things. I want to reference The Woman King. Bring me back to that, please. But the first time I saw myself and felt like my story, the first time I saw myself and felt like my story was represented was reading Dr. Maya Angelou's works. I
Okay.
know, I know where the cage bird sings. I just started reading her works, and it was the first time I heard my story being uttered out loud. And so I just gobbled up all of her work, even saw her in person when she was alive. Amazing. And so, throughout the years, I've connected with different characters. The one that I connected with most recently was when I watched A Woman King, and that was Naniska. And I loved her story. When I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's almost like it's just so much of it was my story, and just seeing her go through this journey and what helped her to evolve into the Woman King. She had all of those characteristics. However, what helped her evolve is towards the end of the film when you see she's going to fight this fight by herself, but she doesn't realize she has this community behind her. Oh, it makes me emotional now. I watched that movie so many times. I
Take them.
It's just so powerful. It was just so powerful to see this character who thought she was alone to turn around. There's her whole community right there with her. And that's been akin to my life journey. It's been akin to my cancer journey, to my ostomy journey. There's just been these times I felt so alone. And I felt I was fighting for my life. And I'm valiant. I fought some fights, like not physically, but coming through all of that. And so when I saw that character, I almost jumped through the screen. So I actually crafted my own Woman King outfit for Halloween. And a couple of years ago when the movie came out, and then I wore it at the Disability Comic Con. And it was one of the most incredible moments to be able to wear that, out in public during daylight and have some people recognized it and some people didn't, but it was just really powerful because I connected with her empowerment. It wasn't so much about her physical power. Her physical power was awesome, but it was really her internal power. And that's where I operate from. We might not have the ability to use our limbs or certain parts of our body, but if we have this, we have more than we'll ever have, you know. So I definitely connected with that character. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And I'm glad you were able to connect with that character. And it's good to be able to have characters that we connect to because honestly, it can be hard for us to connect with characters, like very much so. You can just see aspects of yourself, but then it's like, what's really me? Like, no
Yeah.
really create something on their own. And it's like, especially with like artists, and comic book, the artists, writers, and everything, like all of these guys and gals, um,
Mm-hmm.
that represent themselves. And it's like when we think, we're like, okay, who is this character? Like, who is this character that is just badass? Or who's this character that is a villain but has so many underlying things
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
that just a circumstance, like a victim of circumstance. I'm sorry, a victim of circumstance, but they just turned into a villain because no one was there for them. Uh,
You may I segue there? You reminded me of the character that I identified with before that, and everything you described reminded me of it. And that was the character of Mystique.
uh,
And uh, from X-Men, I believe, yeah, Mystique. And why I felt like I identified with her is like what you said. You said a key point. Growing up, going through all that trauma, I didn't know who I was, what I was about, any of those things. However, having lived on different coasts, having been around different cultures, all kinds of these different experiences, I became a shapeshifter of sorts. And so, I could be here, I could be here, I could be here. I was just literally mystiquing until I came into my own and was able to stand in myself and pull on those things when needed, but not have that thing be my primary character. But that evolved out of trauma, like what you said. That's the villain origin story, right? So it's like that could have been my story, is a villain origin story, because, like, say, take my father for example. We're all born these beautiful peeps, and then you go through this trauma and it becomes your villain origin story. And so then you just keep passing that on. And so when it came to me, I that's my role is not a villain, but it took me many decades to figure that out. And so that gravitated, I think, more towards like Naniska lately, because she's not a villain. She's loves her community, she loves her family, she will die to protect those she cares about, and so it's like I love that. And she ended up not having to die at that moment because she really was involved with her community. So yeah, that's how that evolution went for me. And there's many other characters, but just to take those two, just to surmise, stay brief, those two. Yeah.
No, and look, I appreciate that. Like and it's hard to make those connections. It's hard for us to sit there until two things happen. Someone says something
Mhm.
or you self-reflect because no one's going to teach you how to think about it. Like, how did I point? Like, why are we here as of right now? Um, self-reflection is like such a tremendous thing. And again, it is like the biggest way to see, is this going to be your villain origin story or are you going to grow from it?
Exactly.
And so that's, again, like that can be any of us. That can be any of us. And it doesn't matter like how good or how much positivity you put into the world. If you let a lot of the negativity that has affected you just, and unfortunately, it's like always that one thing. Doesn't have to be everything. It's always that one thing. And then it's just boom, it's gonna take over everything else.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
And, and so, but that's just again some of like my observation how things are.
Mm, mm.
But again, you have to find your community. Like having a community is very important.
Yes. Agreed.
And I can't learn that myself.
Mm,
I when I started cosplaying, just me by myself. People,
mm,
but again, it was just me. I didn't know what the term cosplay was until maybe 2017, 2018,
mm,
around.
mm.
I started cosplaying in 2015. I just didn't know. So I've been cosplaying for almost 10 years now.
Wow. That's cool. And you do it so well. You do it so your characters are just amazing. Just amazing. Simply. Hmm. I could tell you put a lot of time and effort into it.
I, I have to because my image of what I see in my head is like, this is what I want people to see. And
Mm,
this is what I find to characters too, of like what I did and then the character. And I'm like,
mm,
when you see this character, when you see me dressed as this character, I want you to immediately know who this character is.
mm,
Um,
mm.
and one of the funniest things is there's a movie called Joanna Man. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you've seen it. You've seen it, but it was a funny movie. I really enjoyed that movie. And so I've cosplayed as Joanna Man before, and people knew who it was automatically. And I was like, oh, that was last year. And it was last year. I cosplayed that last year. And it threw me off. I didn't think anyone was going to get it like that. But so many people got who it was. What is it? I cosplayed Joanna and I only posted the photos. I did that in, I think it was March or April of 2023.
Mm.
But like actor Miguel Nunez, he's gonna be in Houston for yes, he's it's a horror film festival. He's gonna be here, and I gotta, I have to meet this man dressed as Joanna and get a call because I'm like, there is no way that I'm just gonna let this slip. Like,
No. Man, that would be me too. Okay, because look, when I cosplayed Naniska, I put it on my social media. Oh my gosh, I just about lost my biscuits because Viola Davis and uh, Gina, the producer, both liked. They loved it, and every time I've shown it, either one or both of them has interacted with the content, and
uh,
I just like, wow, it's such a big glow. It's this global thing, right? And to have them go, oh, I see, and just seeing that, that people appreciate when you take the time to represent them in that way. I thought for myself when I was crafting my Naniska outfit, I tried to buy it ready made, but of course there was none at that time. And so, I just remember I was sewing this outfit and just thinking of the designer who created these incredible costumes on that set and just thinking of the journey and not only their journey, my journey, and how merging those two things was such a beautiful and life affirming moment, and then to go out and have my ostomy out. So I have a special cover made, and that character was from Black Panther. So I had the general, um, Danae,
Jorma,
get it? Yes, yes, yes. So yes, exactly. And I did not want to butcher the name. And so yeah, I had that as an ostomy cover over my, uh, in paired with my Woman King outfit. And so that was just, it was emerging it because I also connected with those characters as well. And so just to be able to see yourself, in so many things, and seeing us on the runway, seeing us in TV and all of these things being us. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of, you know people of color content creators who are being represented as well, for what they're doing, and how they're showing up, like us, you know like Lord Snow.
so I'm gonna go into our next question, and it's just a little question, just a little question. So, what's an important thing you can tell our audience about colorectal cancer?
Hmm. An important thing is it's scary at the beginning. It's scary, the thought of it. However, what's scarier is to not deal with any of it, to ignore it, to just not look at what's happening with your body. So I say with colorectal cancer, all cancers, be aware of what's happening in your body. Just be more present. If you're experiencing symptoms, write them down, journal them, because that's what I would do. I wrote down what was happening. And so when I go to the doctor and I'm sitting here reading off this list, they know that I'm so serious about what is happening. They know that I'm advocating for myself because I've taken the time. I'm not like, well, I'm like, listen, I've had this, 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 this. And even when I was diagnosed, they ask you, like, when I went to get my colonoscopy, the nurse was asking me, because I don't think they were really going to give me the colonoscopy. They were just kind of, yeah. And they said, well, how much blood are you losing in the toilet? I said, I don't know. I can't quantify that. It's going into the toilet. And so what I had done was take a picture of it. And so when I showed the nurse this picture, I was instantly scheduled for the next week. So I say that whatever is going on, if you're take a picture of your stools if they're narrow, like little pencil stools, take a picture of those things. I know the doctor doesn't necessarily want to see it, but look, you're advocating and fighting for your life. They got to deal with it. And you could tell them, but they're like, oh, well, maybe hemorrhoids, whatever. No, here's the picture. Does this look normal to you? Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what my blood pressure has been. Here's what I've been eating. Here's all these things. So that's not just colorectal cancer, but it's all the cancers. And so with colorectal cancer, going to orgs like Fight CRC, Colorectal Cancer Alliance, all of these different orgs, look at them, read the stories, take time to hear what people are saying, because you'll see a commonality. And it's interesting because for me, I am one of, I think about at least 6 people in my family on both sides, maternal and paternal, who've had colorectal cancer, and I'm the only one to have survived. I just lost a cousin. I literally just lost a cousin, my first cousin, younger than me, to colorectal cancer when we moved back to Texas in 2022. I didn't even know that they had it, that she had it. And then I started, because I was an ambassador. I've been talking about it, but no one was really talking about it in my family. And then once she passed, it kind of opened the door for conversation. So I say, especially around Black families, it's like, we need to be sharing this history, because if I had known that there was all these people who have had this and didn't make it, maybe going to the doctor and saying that would have made a difference, all of those years. So for us, have those conversations, talk about your poop. I know it's not polite, but polite does not help you with colorectal cancer. You've got to talk. You've got to look at the pictures. You've got to listen to the stories. You've got to find these threads for yourself. Go in and make sure that they're testing you and pulling up things that you need. And then if you receive that type of diagnosis, pause and breathe and think about, hey, you can go get a second opinion. You don't have to just go with the first course of treatment for colorectal cancer. There's so many treatments now. There's studies, and I know we're, a culture that can be study averse because of the studies that were done on us. It's an extensive history. However, now a lot of the studies are becoming more thoughtful. So those types of things, just be willing to have these conversations. It can save your life. It can save your children's lives. It's, me talking about it now, my children are more aware of what their poop should look like and how often they should be pooping. I thought it was completely normal to go to the bathroom once a week, maybe.
No, no.
Yeah, yeah, because it was never talked about. You didn't talk about it. It's impolite. Yeah,
Eh, you're not wrong about that. That I will say is we don't talk about any of these things. Like health isn't a concern. The concern is who's making the potato salad at Thanksgiving.
yeah. I will say this. I won't say health. I don't think it's that health is not a concern for us. It's just that it tends to be put on the back burner, you know, because we're doing life and you're surviving and you're doing all these things. And I don't have time to be sick. I've actually had somebody say that to me. I don't have time to be sick. I don't have time to have cancer. It's like, wow, that's a beautiful luxury, talking to someone who's been through cancer. Like, what? Like, huh? You'll have time. If it hits you, you'll make time. And that's not what you want. So let's start having these conversations preemptively in order to foster healthier, norms for not just, you know, uh, Black Americans, just all of us, because I feel like across the board, people don't really want to talk about this stuff, and even more so in, POC communities because of tradition, culture, all of that.
Right. And that is for everyone. Just as a quick note, if you have the sick time, use your sick time. Go to the doctor. If you have vacation time and you don't have to use it, go to the doctor. Like start building that regular, oh my goodness, how did I just have a brain fart and I can't even say the word? Get into that habit
Mm-hmm.
of doctor or even talking to a therapist. Like get
Mm-hmm.
into those healthy habits.
Mm-hmm.
Even again, mention, yes, working out is good. Yes, eating right is good. But there are so many underlying conditions to things that you may or may not know. Even
Exactly.
allergies you are allergic to. Some people are allergic to grass. Some people are allergic to bee stings, peanut butter. What?
Not peanut butter, but bee stings and certain grass. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, you raised your hand twice. Um, okay, so grass, bee stings, shellfish, peanut butter. Like some people don't know until it happens, and difference from you living a healthy life to you being almost on a deathbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you and it happens because look, growing up living in California, I live in Berkeley, so I was eating vegan and I'm walking and being so active. You would never think that I was only pooping once a week. I mean, I was walking, climbing mountains, doing all the things out there. However, I was only pooping once, maybe twice a week. Um, and so I was doing all the things, yoga, prenatal yoga, homeopathic medicines, midwives, giving birth naturally. I had home births. I mean, I was a granola mom. I am granola, which they call in California when you're just like, into all these natural things. And yet, and there's so many people diagnosed who are living their peak lives, like you said, working out, eating all the right things. However, underlying things such as trauma, all kinds of environmental things, all kinds of things can lend itself to setting up um, this host for disease in your body. So it's okay if you're eating whatever you're eating, just be conscious of what's happening because then you can work to help your body, help optimize your body to the best of its ability. And I say this about colorectal cancer, and I say this about any cancer. Most people think when you're diagnosed, I remember when I was diagnosed, my only goal was to beat this disease, and not realizing that coming through this would leave me with so many other things. And so it's not just about being termed cancer free because a lot of people are not deemed cancer free and they lose their lives to it. So that to me is not the journey, is to beat cancer, is to live your best life in spite of this diagnosis, to embrace the moments in spite of this, for so many, a death sentence, to embrace this life in spite of now you have this ostomy or surgical scars all over your body, or your body doesn't function the same, that type of a thing.
Right. And look, now, since when we said all that, I'm gonna ask, and I have like two more questions for you. But this next, yeah, the last one will be very simple, I promise. But this next one, again, like just going by everything that we've talked about so far. So my next question is, what was your biggest inspiration?
Mm. my, my family, my family, my husband, our children. um, I just know how much I've enjoyed life with them. and uh, I knew that I wanted more. And I wanted to be able to see my children grow up. I wanted to be able to spend all of these years with my husband, my best friend. And that was my biggest inspiration, in addition to the fact that I realized I deserve to live. My life is valuable. That trauma that I went through told me that my life wasn't valuable, and that if something like this happened, that I deserved it. However, with help, with time, with therapy, and all of that, I realized that I do deserve to live, and I do deserve to live my best life, and all of us do. And so that was that was such an inspiration for me to keep going, to see my children, just growing and going, and seeing my husband thriving. And I just was like, you know what, I'm in this bed, but I can write from this bed. I can sing from this bed. I wrote a book. I co-authored an anthology from my bed. It was a chapter, not a book, but I wrote a chapter for an anthology. And so, just speaking from my bed, doing what I could. And so those things were inspirations to me. And then it just evolved into helping others and being this, just having this purpose. And so I just continue, my inspiration just continues to evolve as I meet more people like yourself, as I meet more people in these communities, as I work with these different orgs and all of this, I continue to be inspired. As I see myself growing and evolving, I am inspired to keep going. Because there's an old hymnal that I grew up with, and they said, wouldn't take wouldn't take nothing from my journey. And I never understood that growing up. Because a lot of times I go, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do different? For me, I will end on I would do nothing different, because I sit here as I'm meant to be, with the journey that I was meant to have, and the lessons that I was able to claim or gather from that journey. And part of that is that's the colorectal cancer journey. So yeah, all of that has turned into an inspiration for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful, by the way. I want to say, like, inspiration is probably the one thing that, again, keeps people going. And for others, it can literally be just the smallest of things. For some, like you say, your family was your inspiration, your husband, your children, all was your inspiration. And again, thank you for sharing that testimony. And do know, because you wrote a chapter in a book doesn't mean you aren't an author of a book. That counts. It does count.
Oh,
It
yes,
counts.
it does. Oh, it does. It does. Oh, there's one of my co-authors on the chat. I am Clara Peters. So she also wrote a chapter. So we all of these women came together and we told our story of our faith and how it was built and what that meant for each of us. And it became an international bestseller. So I do have that title now. So along with Clara. So yes, just so I don't belittle it, but I also didn't want to misrepresent it. That's why I clarified. Like, "Oh, I read this whole book by myself." No, it was all of us came together to share these stories that were so purposeful, and with the hopes that it would help others to find themselves and find their peace and whatever faith that is for yourself. That's a personal journey. I just shared what it meant to me.
And like, sharing is the most important thing, especially for people, as we've talked about, that don't know about everyone else's journey, or know that they're not alone in this. Like that helps a
Mhm.
ton.
Mhm.
You have definitely, like, thought about.
Yes. Yeah.
And then for my very last question, and I told you this one would be easy, can you tell our audience about any upcoming events you'll be at?
Oh gosh. Let's see. Well, I will be going to, I don't have any public events quite yet. I will be doing, like I said, I'll be co-hosting pardon me, Ostomy Awareness Day through United Ostomy Associations of America on October 5th, 2024. It'll be virtual. So, we might be doing like a sip and paint or something like that. I will post details. Anybody, you guys are all welcome. You don't have to have an ostomy to participate. Just come and be a part of this journey, learn about other ostomates, have an experience. I'm also going to be going to Kansas City this month because I'm a Fight CRC mentor to the new Fight CRC Ambassador class. So I will be working, with mentees that I have. Um, in addition to, all kinds of different projects that I do have coming up. And so I'll be posting those as they come up and as I get closer to the time. Thank you for asking. Yes.
Well, I want to make sure people do know. And can they find us on your website, by the way?
I will have an event calendar that is going up on my website. I have a new website, and so it is in the process of adding all of the wonderful things. So, yes, go and check out my website, www.kimberlyhcoleman.com. And you'll see a bit of my story. And like I said, it's in the works. And so I'll be adding in different pages and my blogs and different podcasts and things like that I've been on, so people can read and they can come, and I'll be putting resources and so they can find resources for ostomy and colorectal. I'm going to put all that on my site. So yeah, for now, just go enjoy the story, then we can talk, and feel free to converse with me on social media because I have my IG, I have a TikTok, and I respond as quickly as I can. I have a lot of people that will inbox me, and I'm totally okay with that. I will send you resources if I don't know what it is. I'm happy to give resources, and that's pretty much what I do. I just kind of think of myself as a bridge. I'm a patient, but I'm also like an advocate. So I bridge those two worlds. And so I'm happy to help and assist, as I can with new ostomates or veteran ostomates, whatever it is, cancer patients, whatever you need, trauma, I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, and I know we've been engaging with our audience,
Yeah.
basically like through the entire podcast, the interview. I don't know if anyone has any questions, by the way. If you do, like, definitely leave them in the comments. Please feel free. Usually, again, we've had like an audience, like kind of like just everyone's just been like tuning in for Kimberly, let us know. And if not, then do know you'll be able to find her on all her social media and interact and everything. But I'll definitely give like our closing remarks like here. Oh, we do have a question. So Lord Snow asked, any cost plans?
Since Halloween is coming up, I am new to the cosplay community. I would love, because I'm going to be ever expanding my Naniska outfit, and I have a couple other things that I'm working on. And so I would love to know more. If you guys have any cause plans that you think I should be involved in, drop them in the chat because I would love to show up and be more a part of this community. I enjoyed, my first experience with it and would love to continue. I'm so excited. So just let me know, and I'm happy to come and join this incredible community.
Awesome. Do know that again, welcome to the cosplay community. You have because I didn't think you knew. I did not think you were new at all. I thought you were a seasoned veteran and everything. Um, I mean, me personally, like I told you, I am coming up on 9 years of cosplaying. October will make the ninth year, but also like my birthday's in October too.
Happy birthday in advance!
So I have accumulated stuff like over the years. So what I will tell you as a new person of the cosplay community, a closet for your own stuff, like for your own closet, your own closet, because I'm coming up on like 30 costumes. I'm almost at 30 different costumes, different ones. It's not just the same, different ones. Each costume practically has its own set of shoes, its wigs, makeup, fingernails, the eyelashes, the cheeks, like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
um, it had like every one of them has its own like stuff. So I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna need storage, especially for
Listen,
your.
listen, I'm already there because I do burlesque. And so with
Mhm.
burlesque, you have costumes. So yeah, I'm already there. My closet's already, yeah, because I have like stoles and all kinds of shoes and wigs and all the things. And so yeah, I feel like cosplay is just naturally kind of comes into that. And some people cosplay in burlesque. And so it's a beautiful thing. And so, but thank you. Yeah, I will need a separate closet because my closet is struggling with the burlesque and the modeling and regular life.
Oh, like even in my I have one closet, my regular clothes, my work clothes. This is not my like regular work clothes, but I will wear them to work, go out, like special events and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, like it's each of these, and even our winter stuff too, like our winter coats and everything, hoodies,
Hmm.
all that stuff. It takes up so much room. So I'm about to move, and I have to move to a different space, and I have a big closet. Like when I go touring, I'm like, look here, I need to see the closet space. That's really good. I need to, but I need to know a walk-in closet or a little one. And if it is a little one, we can end this tour right here. If it's a walk, yeah, yes. Like if it's a little closet and I can't walk into it and I can't fit all of it, we can end this tour right here. Like completely end it.
100. 100, Alex.
Like that, you don't have a gas stove because gas stoves cook differently. Um, and I love to cook too. That's another thing. But like, and there are a few other things as well. But as long as I have a closet big enough to fit everything, that's all I need. That's really all I need.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope to join you guys. I hope to join you all. And so just like I said, keep me posted because I want my closet to expand too. Do you have a special diet? Oh, Fairy Queen. Oh my gosh. Yes, Fae Life. Do I have a special diet? No, yes and no. There are certain things that I cannot eat. Like hard cruciferous vegetables will give me a blockage. I tried to be a raw vegan with my ostomy, and that didn't work out. I was hospitalized with one of the worst blockages ever. And so my body, because of the surgery, and I don't, my stool doesn't exit the same way because a lot of people don't realize with your sphincter, it spasms, and that's what gets it to come out of your body, right? And as well as you can bear down and push it out. But for me, because it's the colon has been resectioned and pulled through my stomach, there is no muscle to push it out. So I have to be careful with the foods that I'm eating. A lot of, tending towards more soft things, chewing a lot, drinking more fluids, being hydrated. All of those things are really important. So yeah, there are certain things I'm unable to eat or I choose not to eat because I don't want that. And for the most part, I can eat pretty much most of the things I like. So I just work around that. Again, life with a disability, life with the ostomy. I have learned that pre-planning and knowing what my body, again, I keep a chart, I keep a journal, like, ooh, that I had a horrible blockage, this is not good, I'm going to take this off, or this was good, it helped me, those types of things. So, like, say for instance, every morning my first thing in the morning, I drink a cup of warm water, and then following that, I do like psyllium husk. So I put this psyllium husk in the water, drink it, and that helps my body to process, and it helps me to push things out because I don't have the sphincter to do it. So those types of things, I have to be very conscious of that, staying hydrated and all of that. So yes, thank you. Great question. Yes, and I would love to be a fairy queen. Yes. Okay,
I
I
would like
digress. Oh,
to.
I, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm good.
What?
No, no, no. For another time. For another time. I don't want to hold it. So,
Well, I will make our closing remarks. So I would like to say thank you all for listening today, and a big thank you to Kimberly for taking the time out of your day to sit down with me. If you would like to see more of Kimberly, check out her social media, and they're all the same. Kimberly H. Coleman. And then again, the website is www.kimberlyhcoleman.com. Uh, this is, again, for all her social media platforms. If you like today's interview, don't forget to subscribe. This will be on my YouTube and my Spotify as well. So you can definitely like listen to this like more than once. And it'll also be on my Instagram and Facebook as well. Also, be sure to check out my website, davidthesmiley.com. I'll have different events on there, just like this podcast, places that I'll be at whenever I'm doing like drag stuff as well and my entertaining, all of that will be up there. And you'll see that for podcasts and other events, interviews, and more. Again, my name is David the Smiley, and thank you so much for being here today. Have a wonderful
oh,
day, and I look forward to seeing you. Yes.
yes. And can I say one thing before we go, just super quick? I just wanted to thank you, David. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, you microphone now.
To hear, parts of your story, to interact with everyone that attended. Thank you to everyone who came on the live and left a question or comment or all of that. It is all appreciated, and I just want to thank you and hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Thanks, David.
So much. All right, Kimberly, I'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Ciao.